This thing is definitely putting the extreme in master grade extreme. From the super detailed outer frame to the completely golden inner frame with metallic parts to the price, this thing is extreme in all of the best ways. So if you want one for yourself, you can head over to Hobbling Japan with the link down below. They're my favorite online hobby store and they provided me with this extreme kit. And for once, let's start with the inside, because this is definitely the thing that Bandai wants you to focus on. Not only did their marketing show it off extensively, but even the manual is built around this. Normally, they have you building everything section by section, like first the torso, then the arms, and so forth. But this time, the manual actually tells you to first assemble the complete inner frame. And I can totally understand why. This bad boy is packing a total of 4 different shades of gold. The ever-impressive shiny gold, sometimes also dubbed the fingerprint magnet, the smoother, less shiny honey-esque gold, which is my personal favorite, the slightly less impressive copper gold, which still offers a nice contrast with the rest, and this. While I could understand this type of gold for the inner frame that we don't normally see once you have the outer plates attached, or places that are typically equally unnoticeable like the bottom of the feet, having it used on the joints is really jarring because it is right next to the very nice shiny gold. I didn't like it when they did this with the old full burst master grade, and I really don't like seeing it done with a model kit that was first advertised as the ultimate golden embodiment of the Strike Freedom. It's nothing a can of gold spray paint won't fix, but it would have been cool to see it done better out of the box. What they did really nail then were the seam lines and the nub marks. Not only are you not going to find any seam lines, but you'll even be hard pressed to find any nub marks, thanks to a combination of undergating and tactical placement on both the inside and the outside. But that's not to say that you won't find any at all. And talking about shiny things, the etched metallic parts. Overall, these are great. They were a bit of a pain to get off the adhesive strip, with some green sometimes being left on them, but they add a really nice extra metallic shine. Especially on the backpack and the legs, where they work together with the already present details and enhance them. On the torso though, while the metal parts still look great, they unfortunately hide some of the amazing details underneath them. So we're kinda suffering from a too much quality problem. Do you want the fine detail underneath or the shiny metal on top? And just to make sure, these are stick-on parts, so you don't have to glue them on. And for some extra shiny bits, we go to the stickers. And don't worry, these aren't your normal color correction stickers. These are metallic 3D stickers. That is what the manual calls them. And believe me when I tell you that they add an immense amount of extra appeal to this thing. Whether it's the red ones on the inner frame or the green sensor-esque ones on the armor, they add an unprecedented finishing touch to this kit. Also, while we do get some of them for the main sensors on the head and the weapons, there are also clear blue pieces underneath them, or on top in the case of the railguns. And especially for the beam rifles, there's a case to be made to not use these shiny stickers, because just as with the etched parts, there is again some detailing being hidden. So again, the question is, do you want the nice detailing underneath or the nice shiny part on top? And all of these things combined together into one of the best looking gunplas ever. Seeing the gold poke through everywhere is just simply beautiful. It perfectly highlights the amount of love and dedication that went into designing this thing. And again, it just looks fantastic. And that clear red on the waist and the shoulders, chef's kiss. A perfect crowning jewel for this extreme master grade. And if you want even more perfection, you can always slap on the water slide decals. And we haven't even gotten to the armor separation. Another one of the big selling points of this model kit. Supposedly, this thing has the most moving armor panels of any gunpla out there. And well, I'm inclined to believe them because there are a lot of moving things on this kit. And believe it or not, but despite that, it still feels sturdy. So let's have a look at all of the moving parts on this thing and the accessories along the way. As always, starting off with the head, it is on the usual double ball joint, allowing for quite a lot of movement on this thing. And on the back of the head, we have this little moving panel for a little bit extra movement. And then the shoulders then is where we get our first bit of amazing detail. Now we have a lot of moving joints here to give the shoulders some really great movement. Just be careful with them that you don't snap anything. Let's put that back in there. They already go out really far by themselves. And then the shoulder armor not only goes up on a hinge, but right there we have another hinge, and look at those thrusters moving. And the one thing that I was surprised by the most is how smooth this feels. It wouldn't be the first time that you have a model kit that has all of these amazing moving sliding parts, but you try to like push on the thing that's supposed to make a move and it feels like you're going to break the model kit. This feels like an action figure kinda movement. It just works. And then these little flaps will also go forwards and backwards, both on the front and the back. There's no real point to them, but it's just really nice that they can move. Then this little flap here also moves in and out. Again, no real point, but it is just nice that it does. Then the arms will rotate around. They'll also rotate around below the shoulder, bend at the elbow on two joints, and this is one of the few places where you're not going to see any armor separation, where they could have included maybe some armor separation. Then this here goes in and out, and we have some extra movement because this wrist part can also rotate around. And what I really like here is that, as you see, the hand stays in place. Now let's move this back, and then this part with another gorgeous see-through red part that you gotta be careful about to not disconnect, moves out, and now you can attach the equally beautifully looking beam shields. And we don't just get one, we get two of them. And another thing that we get multiples of, the hands. Now, I have gone on record multiple times that I'm not a huge fan of fixed hands on master grades, but I can understand why they are a good feature to have. So I was really happy to see that the master grade Extreme Strike Freedom Gundam just comes with everything. Currently mounted on my machine are the fully posable 3.0 hands that can do literally anything you want. Thanks to a combination of ball joints and hinge joints, these can literally move like a human hand. And what they want you to use them for on the Master Grade Extreme, other than making funny poses, is for the beam sabers. Simply fold out this little peg, hook up the beam saber, and you can start posing away with either the beam sabers in single use or combined as the ambidextrous halberd. And the other included hands then are two closed fist hands, two open hands with an extra joint for some nice dynamic posing, and of course two trigger finger hands to be used with the two beam rifles. So let's have a look at those. Simply disconnect them from the side skirts, flip down this peg and pull out the handle. And now they're ready to be used as individual beam rifles, or you can of course replicate the famous intro scene by extending them and combining them. And while transforming them, you extend the barrels to expose some more of that really nice honey gold underneath. So now putting this rifle aside, and since we were on the topic of the side skirts, let's pull those railguns in because they also have some nice mechanisms going on. One thing I will say about these railguns though is that I noticed while transforming them, it is relatively easy to accidentally pull them out. They're not in there super secure, they're not to the point where they're going to flail around, it's just that the top part is quite open, making it relatively easy to, again, accidentally pull them out. So just be careful with that. And then transforming the railguns themselves is very straightforward. They fold out and then pull out to again reveal more of that nice shiny gold underneath. And this then of course means that we now have all of the ingredients for the Strike Freedom's full burst mode. And now we go back to the torso that we skipped. We have some forwards and backwards movement, again with some moving panels on the back, but what is the real eye catcher here is the side to side movement. And look how it's not just those white panels on the side that move along, but we have an extra joint in the waist itself that also has all of the waist armor moving along with it for some extra sideways movement. And the waist armor is still hiding more secrets. Not only are they ridiculously well articulated with a ball joint and hinge combo, but they also have an extension gimmick. And just as with the shoulder armor, this is again super smooth, it just works by itself. And also on the back skirt we have some extending panels. Now the back skirts are somewhat less articulated, they are just on a standard peg, but they still move outwards adequately, giving the legs some reasonable backwards movement, or you could also extend it a little bit more, just like that. As for the forwards movement then, as you've probably guessed, you can pull off some crazy things with that. By default, they go outwards nicely just like that, but we have an extra extending joint right there, allowing the legs to kick up all the way like that. Not too shabby for a heavy artillery mobile suit. As for the outwards movement then, the railguns can of course go all the way out like that, allowing the legs to go up about that far. Or if you want, you can also move the railguns to the back, giving the legs some extra upwards movement. And then in addition to the usual hip joint, we also have an extra joint right there for some nice extra in and outwards movement. And now it's time to have a look at the rest of these nice thick legs, because as you've probably guessed, they're hiding a lot of goodies. Moving the knees, you will see a lot of things starting to move, both on the thighs and on the lower legs. And as with everything else, it just moves really smoothly and exposes that nice detail underneath. Then on the back, we again have some more opening panels. And then finally the feet, where we again have some more moving panels. Keep your eyes on the gray part on the sides of the legs that are synchronized with the sideways movement. Then we of course have some ankle guard movement. This thing is on a ball joint, so it does have some nice freedom of movement. The feet will go nicely forwards and backwards. We have a very elaborate toe joint with not only the entire front of the foot moving, but also the toe itself having some extra movement. And then finally, the whole thing will also rotate around. But then of course, there is one thing that we haven't talked about yet. The big defining feature of the Strike Freedom, the backpack with the dragoons. And just as with everything else, there's a lot of movement going on here. First of all, both of the wings are on a hinge joint and will rotate around. Then the individual wings can go in and out. And on each of the dragoon carriers, one of them can go up and down, and all of them can extend. Again, revealing the very nice gold underneath. Then the dragoons themselves, you simply pull them out, revealing yet more gold. And then what you're supposed to do to remove the dragoons is open up these black pieces, but I will warn you, do not try to open them up on this side because these things here are pretty thin and they do feel like they could break if you try to move it on the tip. And then you simply pull off the dragoons and you can display your strike freedom with all of his dragoons deployed, if you have some way to have the dragoons deployed, because there's nothing in this kit so far that will allow you to have the dragoons deployed. It's absolutely not going to be a P Bandai in the future, mark my words. And then when you combine all of those opening sliding panels with the accessories that we're getting, with the incredible movement that we've seen, you can pull off some absolutely gorgeous poses that take full advantage of all of the engineering that Bandai put into this thing. And I still forgot about one moving thing. We also have an opening cockpit revealing a tiny figure of Kira sitting inside. And there's still a lot more cool stuff that this kit has to offer us. We get two very detailed in-scale figures of Kira and Lacus, this paper craft runner holder thing to help you while building it, leftover parts from the 3.0 hands, and an action base that comes with a dedicated connector that hooks up to the backpack. Something that gives the legs more freedom of movement and should also lower the stress on the joints of the abdomen. And if you still want to use it with another kit, it also comes with the regular peg connector as well as a few other leftover parts. And last but not least, you might have noticed that it comes with two eye options and that I swapped them out at some point. I first used the clear yellow eyes because I thought they were going to look the coolest, but they ended up looking more deactive, which is a nice effect in its own right, but not what I was going for. So instead, I used the golden yellow eyes, which looked absolutely perfect. Also, another cool use for the clear eyes is if you want to modify this thing with an LED. So as always, the inevitable question is, do you want to buy this? And frankly, I think there's only going to be two kinds of people. The people who get hung up on the cheaper gold being used because it does unfortunately get somewhat in the way of an otherwise amazing model kit, and the people who can let it slide, either because all of the other amazing things that this thing has to offer in order to compensate for it, or because they'll just paint it themselves. 14,000 yen is by no means a small price to pay, but given the amount of detail they put into this thing, I am absolutely blown away by everything it has to offer. There's just so many moving panels and so many details underneath of them, and this kit just really reminded me why I fell in love with Master Grades. From start to finish, this was an incredible build, and there was just so much to look at. And even with everything going on, this kit still manages to feel relatively sturdy. The only thing I can say is that if you want a perfect strike freedom, then you'd probably better start saving up for the inevitable accessory pack, because I am almost 100% certain that we're going to get a P Bandai limited effect part set. I mean, it would be crazy for Bandai to not offer us the Wings of Light and an easy way to have the Super Dragoons flying all over the place. And talking about the Super Dragoons, for size comparisons, here it is next to the older full burst Master Grade, and believe it or not, but at half the price, this is actually still a solid purchase. It doesn't have all of the whistles and the bells of the Master Grade Extreme, but it is a very solid Master Grade in its own right. It also has a lot of gold, it does come with extra effect parts, and it goes for a more simple anime accurate look. Something that isn't better or worse, but just a different option. Next up then, here it is next to its arch nemesis, the Full Blast Destiny Gundam, or at least that's how it was advertised and how things were in the anime at first, but at the end, they paired Kira with Rei and Athrun with Shin. But chipping aside, they don't look half bad together, but you can quickly tell that the Strike Freedom is much more detailed. So, Master Grade Extreme Destiny Gundam 1? And then finally, here it is next to the standard-sized high-grade Gym Custom and the usually bulky high-grade Zaku 3. Maybe I should write Bandai about making a Master Grade Extreme Zaku 3. But anyways, that has been all for this review of this very shiny Strike Freedom. Again, if you want your own, links down below. As always, a big thanks to the Patreon supporters. I hope everyone watching has a great day, and I'll see you all next time.